Welcome back to Lucore Automotive Services. Today I'm working on the Bronco again. Joke's on me, I thought I was done with this truck, and customer called up and said, "Hey, I went to drive my truck and a bunch of bolts hit the floor." Well, the crankshaft pulley came loose. So I went over there and took a look at it, and ultimately decided we need to get a new balancer for it. This V-belt pulley has a ring in it that's interchangeable. One way it's a hub-centric ring, the other way it's a flush ring. It was installed flush ring side, so without any hub-centric to align it. And I believe two of the bolts were never tightened down properly because this front crank pulley has a counterweight in it. And I'm going to bolt this down to the new pulley with the hub-centric ring and see if I'm right, because I don't think the pulley was ever tight from when it was built. And then we'll figure out a solution. You want to see what I do? Stick around. Broke a belt, shucked the other belt. Alright, let me take a look at it. So I drove over there, took a look at it. The pulley was still on the car with one bolt. But one was completely pulled out of the balancer. I got a new balancer from Blueprint Engines, and it comes with a hub-centric ring, which I put in there and can't get out now. And this has a dual pattern balancer, so you can do a 4-bolt or a 3-bolt pulley on it. Well, this also has this counterweight for the small block Ford because it's externally balanced. And if you look, these bolts, that was dirty. I cleaned that one up already. Only go in yay far. So I don't believe the two bolts with the counterbalancer behind it ever got properly tightened. So I'm going to try and torque this down and make sure that my pulley's tight. I may have to trim a thread or two off the bolts to make them fit correctly. But it is what it is, it just needs to be done. And then we're going to switch the harmonic balancer off of this thing because the one that's on it's damaged. And we'll put it all back together. Alright, we're probably going to have to turn the music off so that we don't get a gripe from the people that censor for copyright censorship. Ooh, there's a tight one. Actually, the front crank pulley not being hub-centric would probably explain why everything was loose on this truck when it came in the first time, because the exhaust manifold bolts and collector bolts and compressor bolts and alternator bolts, there was all sorts of loose stuff on this vehicle. And that would probably explain it. Alright, so my hardware is clean. I'm probably going to have to pull the radiator to remove this balancer, but hopefully not. Let's give it a shot and see what happens. I may have room in there to sneak some tools. Let's see if we can sneak it out. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see much of this. It's dark up in there. I'm going to have to video over on the other side of the shop and put some new lights in. I got to see if they mess with the camera or not. That'll determine whether I put them in the rest of the shop. That's your 4-bolt pattern. That's the 3-bolt pattern. That one's wasted. That one's wasted. That one must have been the one that was still hanging on for dear life. Got two that go all the way in. That's different than the new one. Weird. So I removed the pulley bolt. No evidence of there being a hub centric on this setup from previously. And that's probably a press on and press off. Let me grab my puller. I'll have to use the 4-jaw holes since my 3-jaw holes are destroyed. I did bolt the pulley down to the new balancer and it seems to lock down correctly, so I don't have to trim my bolts any, so that's good. And if I was going to trim my bolts, I would trim all 3. That way in the future, if somebody took them off and put them back on, they wouldn't create a problem because by putting one of the bolts back in the hole that was limited with depth. But my depth seems to be okay with these bolts, so I'm going to run them, and we should see a nice smooth pulley when it's running, no like wobbliness. Go grab my puller. I'll be right back. Put the bolts in here. Let me go grab a wrench. I just zip these out with an impact, but I don't have room for that. And I am trying to sneak this in without pulling the radiator, because pulling the radiator is a pain in this car. I'm going to take it apart to get that out of there, aren't I? Probably. That was relatively painless. Verify our pulley has the weight in the same place. That's odd. That's a different weight. Let's verify we have the right pulley. This pulley would have come on the engine from Blueprint. But it has a different weight on there now than what's in there. At least it looks like a different weight. It's actually a pretty inappropriate song, except it's on the radio. Weird. Apparently our society doesn't care about that stuff anymore. So it bolted up pretty good. Let's pull that off. This harmonic balancer would have come on this engine. I'm probably going to switch the weight over. They are clearly different weights. We call Blueprint. Diameter's the same. Balancing holes are different, but I'm assuming that's to balance this as an assembly, and then the weight is our counterweight. Our holes are different. Our holes have a different index, so we have the wrong pulley. That's wonderful. Summit. Here's the part number. Did somebody put the wrong balancer on the engine? The balancer should come. So I looked up the Blueprint part number for the pulley. But what's on here is a Summit part, and it has a weight on it. So did somebody change out the blueprint balancer for a different incorrect unit? I'm going to call Blueprint and talk to them because I don't know how else to solve this problem. But to talk to the guys that built it and verify that this is the correct piece. And again, if that's the wrong weight, then that explains why this engine was vibrating itself into pieces. Again, no problem. We're going to wait for TechLine to answer and give us some answers to questions. And there's no part number on this balancer, which is super annoying. I'm going to clean it up because it is gooey. It's a Summit Racing 1907, so we're going to see what that cross references to. And I'm going to call Blueprint Engines and see if they sell their engines with Summit balancers on them. And I want to verify that this is the correct one, which that weight difference is substantial, and that could cause harmonics and destroy this engine long term if this is incorrect. So let's see what happens if I ever get through. Tech lines are hard to get through to these days. I called the, who was it? I think it was a Holley. I was working on a Holley Sniper, and I finally got through, and they had 387 cases open at the time I called. I was on this one actually, the last time I was working on it. Ooh, that bolt was definitely bottomed in it. Huh. So that one was bottomed and loose, which caused these two to come apart.
1907 is not a good part number for this. It doesn't exist.
Oh, well, that's the only number on there. Maybe somebody had it laying around and it didn't fit. So my call to Blueprint Engines was successful. About a 15-minute wait time, not too bad. But a human picked up the phone and spoke to me and verified my concerns. This is the correct balancer with the 50-ounce weight. This is an incorrect balancer with a 25-ounce weight. I'm going to guess that this pulley coming off happened previously. And when they put it back together, they still didn't put a centric on it, and they didn't get the bolts locked down correctly, because there is, you can see where the bolt contacted the weight on that one. On this one, I'm not seeing contact. I did torque those bolts down. I'm not seeing evidence of contacting them, so I'm going to go ahead and install this. Now I put a little sealer on the inside of this to keep oil from weeping out through it. Then making it better one step at a time. Hopefully I have enough room for my balancer installation tool. Oh boy. I'm not sure I like this installation tool. too bad.
Got it.
So this is the hub centric that was missing all this time. It came with the new balancer, and it fits this pulley without the center ring in it. So we're going to try to use that to keep this thing in the center. Put Loctite on the bolts just as a preventative measure. I'm also using a lock washer, even though I'm not sure lock washers actually do anything. They do give you a little bit of a spacer for that issue of clearance with the weight in the back side, and they seem to fit just fine, so I'm going to roll with it. So that's my point. See a bang thing up in there. Oh, did I get that on the first try? I find that hard to believe. I think I did. Awesome. Luck's changing. No, it's not. My luck's not changing. I think I'm going to go ahead and change the oil in this thing because I'm a little worried about that harmonic balancer probably just trying to beat the main bearings out of this thing. So we'll put some fresh oil in it so that we have a baseline to go from. The oil in this thing was pretty black, so I'm glad I went ahead and changed the engine oil. It doesn't look bad, doesn't have any glitter in it or anything. So should be good to go. Both V-belts are on, my pulley is torqued, my new dampener, my correct dampener is torqued. I did not have to pull the radiator out, so I was very happy I could work around everything in there. Let's fire this thing up, see what it sounds like. It's time for a test now. Fail. Something else is wrong. Alternator is not alternating.
Well, alternator was not alternating. Our brand new alternator was not alternating. So Rich took apart the original alternator that came with the truck when it came in the first time, rebuilt that alternator, put that back on the truck, and that's alternating. He was able to drive it, and everything is A-OK. No more rattly, no more bolts coming loose. This is the tricky thing about working on hot rods and stuff. And really, honestly, in a lot of the wrenching world, I guess you could say, is you got to figure out what's been rednecked before you fix it, or who's been in there fixing something and how'd they fix it before you get to fix it. sometimes you're undoing their fixes to do your fixes, kind of thing. Normally speaking, we never would have looked at the balancer on this vehicle to see whether or not the balancer was correct. But as you could tell, it's a massive difference in weight. And as far as engine balance goes, when you are rotating something that's way, way out of balance, it's a good possibility that's what's going on here. Plus the fact that the bolts weren't cinched down, the washers were running into the edges of the crank pulley. It was all bad. But it's back in business. It's back in the customer's house, and hopefully we don't see that car again for the rest of the fall, and they can enjoy it for a while. Again, it's just kind of the challenges you run into when you work in the world of custom vehicles. When you're working at a dealership and it's, you know, GM stuff or Ford stuff or whatever, and it's the same stuff in and out every day, generally speaking, you can kind of shoot from the hip and be able to know what you're dealing with. On this kind of stuff, you really never know where your problem's going to come from. So, but it makes the days more interesting, right? You never know what the next day may hold. Anyway, Bronco's done. Back to home. No idea what's coming next, but it'll be coming at you soon. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as always, that's what we do here. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. We'll see you on the next one, folks. Take care.